It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, September 19th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is excited to get into actual rookie camp games.
We saw some games. Woo!
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here with the brilliant Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. That's where you'll keep up to date on all the Flyers news and our episodes. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. We've got a mailbag coming up this Wednesday, so get those questions in. On today's show, we are going to talk about that rookie series versus the New York Rangers kids. And it's Monday. So, of course, we will have our nemesis of the week. I think it'll be a good one this week. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you get your podcasts. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Russ, it was an interesting weekend, and I would say kind of a mixed bag because they did win both games. But as we said in our preview, and you said it specifically, it doesn't matter what the score is. It really just matters what they do out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at what they're doing in the game, and then if you want to go that next step, you have to look at what that game does at the next level. So like if you think that someone in this game should be on the Flyers, you have to now look at these two games, say to yourself, okay, based on what I saw in these two games, where does that put this player with the Flyers? What spot exactly can this player take? And it's a lot harder than you think because, again, it's easy to watch these games and say, oh, yeah, this guy's ready or this guy's really close or he should be ready. But then when you say, well, what spot is he going to take? That's where the hard work is.
Right, especially because, we have regular training camp around the corner with a full complement of forwards, and so if you're talking specifically about forwards, where are any of these guys going to slot in when there are, 12 NHL ready, supposedly guys already there?
Yeah, and that's the thing of it. So what this is good for is it jumpstarts their training camp, which helps them for whatever season they're going to have, whether it's OHL, whether it's AHL, whether it's NHL, or even somewhere else. But I mean, that's what it does. It helps jumpstart that. When I look at these things, I look at when I went to, dev camp, saw them ask questions, whatever. Then when they came back here, I had one day to go to camp. I didn't go because I just wanted to see them in game action. So we've seen them in game action now. And now we have a better idea of at least sort of where they are. They're not exactly where they're going to be like in the middle of this upcoming season now. We get that.
Right.
But we can see some things that, project.
Right. And I think up against these Rangers kids, I think the overall takeaway for me is that the Flyers just looked a little bit more tired and slower than the Rangers prospects, but it was important for them to see how they could battle in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, the Flyers battle was there, and I felt like their defensemen were keeping up. I felt like their forwards weren't for the most part. Now, there was one exception on defense that I'll talk about at some point, but for the most part, I felt like that was the general overview of the 2 days. Now, also, we did see some top-notch goaltending. We did. Two goalies in particular, one on the Rangers side, one on the Flyers side, definitely kept the score down too.
Yeah, I was especially surprised by the score in Saturday's game, just again, because we saw flashes of what a lot of these Flyers guys could do, and they were able to capitalize it, I think partially due to the not so good goaltending on the Rangers side. I think
Dylan Garand didn't play the second day, right? Like on the first day, he's their best goalie. He's probably a year away from being an NHL backup, honestly.
Yeah, I think that was extremely apparent because I felt like the effort and the skill that was there relative to the Rangers players, I thought were pretty similar between the 2 days. They were
Yes.
just able to get the pucks in the net on the second day.
Yeah, and Sam Ersson was great. Like, he was terrific. He was
Mhm.
everything he was before he started to get injured. And that, that's a big plus. Like, now you don't have to worry about who's the top goalie in for the Phantoms. That's no longer a question.
I think so, and considering that, he's a guy he played what, 4 games in the
Yeah.
last year to be able to jump in, pretty cold, I would say, overall, to have the game that he did, only 1 goal in 37 shots. He just was getting peppered like
Hmm.
crazy and was able to react to all different kinds of shots, and I think Lappy mentioned something to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, we knew what he was before the injuries, and he was that same guy now. And yeah, he was getting pepper with some shots, but he was really cool under pressure. The movements were there, the glove was there, the timing was there. Like you said, the timing was probably the thing that was going to be most important because it's hard to mimic what this
Mhm.
game action was going to be, and his timing was there.
Yeah, I think that was the part of it that was most impressive to me was that he was able to get side to side really effectively, and I just felt like he had really good vision and anticipation as to where the next shot was gonna be coming from.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. And again, the communication with the defenseman was good because again, he knows some of these guys for sure, but it's not like they played together a ton. And they switched up the defense for Ersson compared to the first day. There were some different players that came in, like Attard came in, and so that's he reacted really well with that.
Yeah. I think somebody else that stood out in both games was Ole Lixell. I
Yes,
think now I will say, to be fair, he is older, right? He's
he's
like
23.
22, 23, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to be just naturally further along than some of these guys. So I don't want to read too much into it. But on the other hand, he had a goal Friday and a goal and 2 assists on Saturday, and I thought his assists were like just as impressive as the goal.
Yeah, I agree. I think the assists were really impressive. The first goal though, on Friday was very impressive because it showed like a different speed burst for him. Like, he's been on this slow path of development, which is fine. Some players are, and we've talked about him infrequently, but enough to say he's still around and he's still hanging around, and he is still hanging around for a reason. There's talent there, and he is a versatile guy. So I did like what I saw. I do feel like his speed burst was there. I felt like his offense is now starting to shine a bit. And I don't think he's going to be a big time scorer, but when you're talking about bottom six kind of players, um, could he be like a little less than like a Michael Raffle kind of contributor? Yeah, he probably could.
Yeah, I think so as well, that he's good in a bunch of different situations,
Yes.
and the Michael Raffle comparison, now that you mention it, I think is a really good one because he was a bit of a chameleon and could
Yep.
really slot in wherever you needed to put him, and it seems like Lixell is one of those guys that would just be up for whatever assignment you gave him. He's pretty disciplined as well, so I
Yeah.
think that he would be a good addition too, if you have like a really good pair together on a forward line and you just want a third person that's going to complement them,
Hmm.
he could complement almost any pairing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he can. And that's really the thing. Um, one thing, even though he may not be in the big list, the Adam Yinning fight was good for a sense that he is a guy that plays with snarl, right? So he kind of like, put that out there. It's like, hey, this is kind of who I am. He's not a big fighter, but he is a tough guy. And so I thought it was good that he kind of laid that because even within the press box, they were kind of like, well, what's Adam Yenning going to do at the NHL level? And I'm like, listen, everybody needs defensive defensemen. You need at least two on every team at the NHL level, at least two. And so I do think he has that ability to be a bottom pair defensive defenseman, and it's different than Robert Hagg. It's hard to explain, but I'll try. He's a better
I
puck
know what you're
trans.
saying.
Yeah, but everybody wants to like default to Robert Hagg. Like, we had Robert Hagg, and it's like, yeah, but he's a better puck transporter. than Robert Hagg, and his brand of defense is better. It's a little tougher, even though Hagg learned how to play tough. So there's just to me, it's a little bit of a cut above if he hits it, and I think he could hit it.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot more guys to talk about, some guys that stood out both positive and negatively, and some guys that maybe weren't as noticeable, and maybe some line combinations that gave us some spark as well. So we are going to talk about all that coming up next. But first, we're going to hear about our friends at Bet Online.
BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online, where the game starts.
I want to talk about another defenseman, Russ. You mentioned Adam Ginning. I want to talk about Ronnie Attard because he was able to kind of show what he does best, but kind of he struggled a little bit in his weak spots, which sounds obvious, but it's like one of those things that he's going to have to work on.
Ronnie Attard, the offense is there, right? We see him. He winds up on the shot. The offense is there. He does everything you want him to do in the offensive zone. The only thing is there were a few plays. Paginiemi burnt him once. And Matthew Remp, who is a big guy. Now, he does skate fairly well, but he's like, what, 6'8", 6'7", 6'8". And he did get down the ice past him and got on inside position and put up a backhand. And so that was like, there's still little work to be done on the angles with the foot speed and the pace. And I'm not saying Remp is an NHLer because he's not, but that's the whole thing. All of a sudden, if you're going to be in the NHL, that could be a thing. So I think there's still more development for Attard too on the defensive end. The offensive end, it's all there. Like we could see it. But the funny thing is, for John Tortorella, as an example, if he sees what I saw, and maybe Attard gets better during, preseason, that's possible, playing with better players. But if he sees what I saw, he's going to be like, hey, the offense is great, but John's not going to have a guy just for offense. He's not going to do it on the blue line. He won't do it.
Right. I thought Brian Zanetti had really what I would call a typical game for him in as much as we've seen him play. But the time that I've seen him at World Juniors, right, it's the same thing. His physicality is really good, but sometimes he crosses that line too much and he spends a little bit of time in the penalty box. So
yeah,
I think he'll have to get a little bit more disciplined on that front.
He will have to get more disciplined. But the skating's there. It's hard these days to kind of stand up a player, but he's able to do it. And that doesn't mean you have to be able to stand him up and put him on his rear. Like, that's hard to do. You have to create amazing strength for that. But he's already got good enough strength where he knows how to stand up guys and tie them up. And so he does have offense in his game too. So the package there is nice. And he's definitely 2 years away, 3 years away. But the idea is there's a definite improvement there. And I think playing for the Swiss team and all those kinds of things have helped him.
Yeah, I think so too. I kind of want to get to what I see as the elephant in the room with all of this, and Tyson Foerster, because he had a tremendous overtime winner in the first game, but I think that he was also pretty quiet overall if you looked at the totality of both games.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the first game up until the overtime goal wasn't a great game. It just wasn't. He had a better game on Saturday. The assist was nice too. The thing about Tyson Foerster is, and it's nice to say he's faster. I get it. He's faster. And he has this great shot. I get it. But the thing about the great shot is it now has to be a little different than it was before to start going in a lot. Because, as you can see, like nobody in the NHL, it's going to be rare. 3-on-3, you possibly could get the room he got to get that goal in the first one, but he didn't have that room in the regular on 5-on-5. And I had made that point. People didn't like it, but he had only I think 2 really good chances other than that because of it. So he, to me, it was like the Cates brothers were sort of driving the line. Now on Saturday, he definitely changed that. And so I feel like, he's a guy that's close, but because he's only played 33 AHL games, I just think the jump is too much right now. We'll see what happens in preseason. But right now, you're talking a big jump that at a 20-year-old guy, it's really, there's no point pushing him to the NHL if you don't need to.
Yeah, I think that a few more months, at least at the AHL level,
Yes.
just to get him more consistent, I think would be the right approach. And like you said, there's just no problem with putting him in the AHL. I think that
No.
it does not do him any harm. I think with some guys you can say there is, but I think with a guy like him, it does him good. I think it does the Phantoms good. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's any issue with doing that as well. But again, good to see some of the flashes of what he can do. And like you said, his shot is tremendous and we all know it. So I look forward to seeing what this whole season brings from him, that we see
Yeah,
the
me too.
continued growth.
I feel good about this guy. Again, I ranked him as a first
Mhm.
round talent. A lot of people didn't. I've seen him grow. I talked to him at camp about the path he took because he was passed over in the draft multiple times. Everything's worked out for him. He's on this development cycle that I just feel like would still be rushing him to put him in the NHL. And I feel like he's on the right cycle. And if you feel like someone's on the right cycle, you leave them there until it's
Mhm.
overwhelming, until it's like you're saying, okay, now you're just over marinating him in the A. And then it's like, fine. Then he'll get his spot. He's not there yet.
Yeah. Another guy that definitely needs that marinating time is Zayd Wisdom. And,
Yes.
his goal on Saturday was really good.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good play overall, I think, by that group to get him that goal. And I mentioned this before we started recording, but Bob Rochuk, who does the play-by-play for the Phantoms, been on this show, was literally just mentioning how not noticeable Zayd Wisdom was in the very moment that he scored that goal, which was funny, but it was
It
also
happens to
true.
all
Yeah.
of us. We do that in the press
Yeah.
box too. It's like, that's
Yeah.
hockey. It's funny though.
Right.
But,
Right.
like someone asked how Zayd Wisdom do, on Friday. And I was like, he was in on a play, but not a lot. And in this game, I felt like there was a little more. Look, reality is two things. When he was playing at, thrown in at the AHL level because of the way things were during the pandemic, a lot of times adrenaline could be a great thing that way. And it fits and it just works for that moment in time. But then when you have to start a season flat footed, again, trying to be at that level, and he's coming off a surgery, it's not the easiest thing. So last year, it took until later in the season for him to really start being like that normal guy. And now he's starting this season flat footed. I think, he will continue to get better, but I also feel like he's not all there yet, even from the injury. Like he's mostly there, but now I feel like as he plays more, he'll get better.
Yeah. I think so too. Is there anybody else that you thought maybe should have stood out a little bit more but was quiet?
Yeah, like Mason Millman first night. He played okay defensively, and that's something that gets overlooked sometimes. And his physical game was good, but there was like a 3-on-2 chance that he muffed. There was he was just passing it too much on the power play. I think I only saw him take like one shot. Like he should be a guy shooting on the power play and not being a let me get this puck off my stick quickly pass guy. And the power play did not look good on Friday, and wasn't much better on
Right.
Saturday. That's something else that we could talk about. It's funny. On a side note, I've never seen a place embrace the penalty kill like the Phantoms do. And of course, it was really good last year. Like we know that, but they were like, it's the whatever penalty kill. And I'm thinking, all right, this is a little different. Now, it's good because your penalty kill is good, but you're still down. Like it's so it was kind of odd for me that they embraced the penalty kill like that. But Millman could have done better.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the penalty kill because it seems like Noah Cates is going to be part of the penalty kill system, or very well could be going into this upcoming season for the Flyers. And so he got to play some PK time, which was good. I wouldn't say phenomenal, but I would say good. But I did also think that he was doing a lot of the playmaking and not a lot of the showing what he can do individually, which is kind of his nature to some degree. But it was still fun to see him play with Jackson. They did team up on that one goal on Saturday, the shorthanded goal again on the penalty kill, which was a lot of fun. So I'm very glad that they put the two Cates on the line together with Foerster as well.
Me too. It was a lot of fun. I felt in that first game, it took everybody a period to kind of get going. Then the pace picked up in the game, but I felt like the Cates line started to drive a little better in the third period of that game. And it definitely picked up where it left off in the Saturday game and was much better. And yeah, you could see Noah Cates, of all the players there, and I think him and Brennan Othman are probably the two closest, if you just wanted to know that. Cates is, to me, going to make the NHL because of all those little things he does. We know he put up more points than Owen Tippett, but I don't even know if John Tortorella is going to embrace Cates as a point guy. I think he's going to embrace him away from the puck as a penalty killer, just being super smart, all those things, and then points will follow and he'll be happy. I think that's where Noah Cates is super valuable. And that's the other thing. There weren't a lot of Flyers who maybe elevated their line mates on offense in these games, but Cates was one of them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Not Jackson.
Well, yes. We are going to wrap up the rookie series and name our nemesis of the week coming up next. All right, I want to talk about one more line real quickly before we get to our nemesis, because I think it could be a legitimate Phantoms line. And I think with time could be pretty significant. And that's the Denoyer line centering Lixel and Zayd Wisdom. I think that they're a combination that could really help each other grow in their development in Lehigh Valley. And I'm just curious what your thought is in terms of keeping them together.
I like it. I would like to keep them together because I think there's different things in their games that complement each other. Denoyer did really well with all the little things, but he didn't like shine offensively. Like he wasn't slick offensively. And that's why I want him to get that AHL time. I don't want to bring up Elliot Denoyer at some point in the NHL for doing the little things. Doing the little things is great, but Elliot Denoyer has to put points up. And so you want him to sort of get that confidence. And I think if he played on a line like that with Wisdom, who can kind of work in the corners, but Denoyer could also set him up down low, that's a big deal. And Lixel will find, his spots too. I love that line.
Yeah, I really do as well. It's one of the things that's making me excited about this upcoming season for the Phantoms.
What about the power play, Rach?
Well, that's TBD.
Okay.
Getting to our nemesis of the week. If you're newer to the show or, just coming into this season, every Monday we talk about who or what in Flyers land is really irritating us. And we had a good one last week. We talked about the challenge of overcoming negativity about the team going into the season, which I think is really difficult to do. But things like these rookie games with little bright moments really help us along. This week for me, it's the impending Tortorella training camp. And just to see how brutal it is in person, I think that you can talk about it and, the players have talked about it and what they've been doing to get in shape for it, but to actually see it and experience it for these guys, I think is a little intimidating.
Oh yeah, if I were these players, I'd get a full eight hours sleep the night before. Like that's just me. Yeah, I'm gonna have a different nemesis, and maybe you'll agree with this nemesis. It really started a couple of years ago, and now it's annoying for me. And that is with Easy Pass getting dinged in another state. Like they get everybody to sign up for Easy Pass, right? So that's great. So there's less
I
traffic.
am familiar.
And so there's less traffic. You get through there, you keep your balance and you're fine, right? But if I have a Pennsylvania Easy Pass and I go to New York, now I'm paying like, I don't know, 5% more on their tolls because I don't have a New York Easy Pass. And it's like, and I go to New York frequently. It's like, should I get a New York Easy Pass now? Like, it's really ridiculous that they do that. And this extra gouging is not appreciated by me. And I'm sure it's not appreciated by others. And I'm sure you've seen it on your bill too.
Yeah, although I get it because if you're a commuter, right, you want some sort of discount for commuting in your local area, but you want the convenience of using Easy Pass when you go to other places. So I honestly don't have a problem with the way that they do that. I know they have a senior discount as
And I
well.
don't believe Pennsylvania gives a discount either to Pennsylvania drivers, which is the other thing. I don't believe there's a
because
discount at
they
all.
don't need to cross bridges to get to work. That's the difference.
Well, they do. They do for Philly. Well, no, New Jersey to Philly. Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
bad excuse.
All right.
If they'd have given me a discount, maybe I wouldn't have bitched. Okay.
All right. Well, it helps me out when I go over the George Washington Bridge. So there you go. Wrapping up with our Flyers fun thing, we talked about Ronnie Attard, and man, did he have a hell of a shot on Saturday in that game. I think that, we talked about the Rangers goaltending that day being not as good as on Friday, but I don't think anybody would have stopped that
Nobody's
shot,
stopping
to be
that shot.
honest.
No,
Yeah.
I mean that thing was wired, as they say. It was great. Everybody should watch it again. If you haven't seen it, see it. That's what Ronnie Attard can do, and that's really, it's fun to see. And not everybody has a shot like that, or could get that kind of shot off at the NHL level.
I thought it was very impressive. I think, while the Cates goal, brothers goal was great because you got to see them play off each other really well.
Yep.
This was just a flat out rocket. And I always appreciate that. And especially because I thought his positioning was good to be in the right spot for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I think fans are going to salivate over that because honestly, nobody, up with the big club has a rocket like that on the power play. They just don't.
That is true. All right, that will do it for today's show. We are back to the in-season schedule here at Locked On Flyers. So we are going to be back tomorrow where we'll really wrap up rookie camp and what we saw. And I want to talk about Ian LaPerriere specifically so we can kind of see where we think his head's at coming into this Phantom season and whether he's on the right path in terms of improving as a head coach as well. We'll get back into that Tuesday Phantoms rhythm by focusing on that. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. We'll have our mailbag on Wednesday. You can tweet us at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. You can also comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
You made us your first listen today. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. You can stay up to date on everything in the hockey world with Locked On NHL, your daily NHL podcast. Have a great day, everyone.